Okay, welcome back, everybody. Let's try this again, see what happens. All right, there's Rob. There's Randy. Good morning, Randy. How are you? So we'll try this again, guys, and see if we can find a way to share the screen this time. I can't remember how to do that. Randy, do you know how to share the... Hi, Dave. Oh, I see what it does. I can bring them on camera. So let's try this now. Here's Dave. Hi, Diane. How are you? Nice to see you. Dave, if your camera's on, then this should work. Hey, John, welcome. So it looks like it's trying to add Dave now. We'll see what happens. Hi, Rob. So Dave and Rob are receiving invites to join me. And we can only do one at a time, so we'll try to do it that way. This is the first time we've done it like this, so bear with us, everybody. So as I was saying earlier that, Dave, it's trying to add you right now. I'm not sure quite what the holdup is, but it's still working on it. Maybe I should need to do some Wi-Fi here. Hang on. So Wi-Fi's on, Dave. I don't know why it's not adding you. Let's try to bring Rob on. As I was saying earlier, when I was younger, thank you, Diane. Comments about the flat tire. We'll talk about that in a sec. When I was younger, trying to add you now, Rob, we were in the music business and we stayed up all night. It was a much different scenario than I have now. We lived for the nighttime. I think I even saw better at night. It was bizarre. And the story now is I can't even stay up to watch the beginning of Saturday Night Live. Forget about watching the whole thing. I had mentioned earlier that I was actually around when Saturday Night Live came on the air. It's a long time ago, man. Did they celebrate their 50th anniversary, something like that? Dave, it's trying to add your camera now. And again, I'll explain to everybody, we're experimenting with this just to see what can happen. We might have to just do with comments today, and if that's true, I'm sorry. Diane's talking about a post that I made about having a flat tire, that Renee had a flat tire and I couldn't help her because I was with a client and we're waiting for the camera to add. And so she called roadside assistance, and this guy showed up in an unmarked Ford Explorer and fixed her tire like in 10 seconds, got in the car and drove off. And later we were laughing. She was telling me about it. She said he showed up just like an Uber driver. And it occurred to us hey, Lisa, good morning. It occurred to us that there's this whole like cottage industry of people out there they've got all these apps opened on their phone. He probably was an Uber driver. And when he's not getting any rides, he comes out and helps people change their tires. Right. And then if it's Uber's not working, he does Lyft. And if Lyft isn't working, he does shopping at Costco and drops it off at your house. All these people kind of like utility infielders in baseball, right? Morning, Lisa. Hi, Joanne Soltz. How are you? So guys, the camera thing's not working. I can't add you somehow. There's an opportunity when you say hello, if you guys ever want to try this, there's an opportunity when people say hello to bring them on camera. And I've tried now with both Dave and Rob. Hey, good morning, Ron. And it's just not working. It spins and spins, and I don't know if you guys are getting an invite or not, but okay, so Dave says he wants to be in the video. Let's see if I can get that to happen. Approve. It'd be cool if this can work. And then we'll teach Rob how to do it and get him on camera. Adding again, just like it did before. Now it says connecting Dave. And there he is. Look at that.
There was like 1,000 buttons to press. It wasn't anywhere it wasn't as advertised.
Yeah. And maybe you can text Rob during the convo here, Dave, and see if, because it worked when you requested to be on camera. Are you on your laptop or your phone?
I'm on my phone. He's going to be on his phone too.
Okay, so Rob, if you're listening, there's a way for you to request to be on camera. And when you do, we can swap you and Dave out, because the only way the app allows is if two people. So that's how we'll do it.
Yeah, I think what Rob, I think what I figured out was that I had to give Facebook permission. Then I had to click on Mike's live video. Then I had to click on the picture of a TV at the top right and request to join. Then I had to accept joining. There's a bunch of stuff. Just follow, do the best you can with it.
Okay, so here's what's going to happen. Rob's going to like tap you out because he's asked to be approved. So I'm going to try him, get him on camera, then we'll ping pong back and forth. Okay, Dave?
Sure. How are you?
Doing good, thank you. Here comes Rob. So it says I don't know.
I'd like to have as much screen time as Rob. If I don't get as much screen time as Rob, I'm going to have a problem with that.
I would think you want to have more screen time than Rob. Okay, I saw Rob's request come in. I think I have to X Dave out. Hopefully this won't cut me off. Let's try it. Okay, continue without guest. Rob, request again, and we'll see if we can get Rob on camera. Hi, Michelle. How are you? So many old Caruso fans on. It's excellent. We're going to talk about memories and tell some stories. Some of them will be true, of things that happened when we were kids. Hi, Cassie. I've got a good story about Cassie and how we met her and her sister way back in the day. Dave, remind me about that later. Rob, if you could request again to be on camera, I'll get you on. And then, you know, the other thing that we were chatting about, we're going to tell some stories about what happened, but I also want to, you know, we've lived a long time since the music business. And thank you, Alicia, for the tip. And I was thinking about lessons learned, like how I ended up where I am in my life today, thanks to the music business. And I think Dave can probably speak to that. Rob can certainly speak to that. Rob said he's trying to get on camera right now. That's good. I think you just have to resubmit, Rob. Maybe that'll help. So, quick story about Cassie and Stephanie, I think, is her sister. So the story was that we went camping really early on in our lives. We went to Tawas. My parents somehow liked being in Tawas. Rob, try this, Rob. Sign out again and sign back in on the thread, and maybe that'll help. And so the girls, the Mueller, I think that's how you say your last name, Steph and Cass, the Mueller sisters worked at an ice cream parlor, which of course we went to every single day while we were camping. Yeah, I think you're going to have to log out and log back in again, Rob. Just sign off on the call and log back in. And so we went to get ice cream, and through this, we got to know the girls a little bit. Hey, Leslie, how are you? And then we had these campground fires at night, and we had a cheap acoustic guitar. I think it was probably our first real instrument, and at least a guitar instrument. And we had learned to play a few songs. And one song I remember was a song by England, Dan, and John Ford Coley called I'd Really Love to See You Tonight. And David learned the chords, and we had some percussion instruments maybe with us, or maybe we just banged on boxes and stuff just to keep rhythm. Rob especially as the drummer in the band. And those were our early first performances, as I recall. I'm sure the guys can weigh in on this. Here comes Rob. I'm sure the guys will weigh in on this either verbally or in messages, in comments. And so I accepted Rob. Let's see what happens. And so those were our like first early performances. I just have vague memories of them. I'm sure the guys remember different things, but that's how we know the Mueller sisters. Pretty cool. And then later, when we got back home, we figured out that there was more to performing than just sitting around a campfire. There was a lot more to be done. We could actually have concerts and sell tickets, and then later on we got into merchandising and all kinds of stuff. So waiting for the so what happens is we're trying to synchronize invitations to the guys, and I'm not quite sure how to do it. So we think that when you sign out, guys, and sign back in, that gives us a chance to approve you on camera again. And until you do that, I guess we're stuck. So anyway, if you'd like to type into the box how you know of the band, if you maybe don't know of the band, you're just on the Facebook Live today, that's fine. But if you had some experience with the band that you want to type into the comment section, that'll help us understand a bit about your orientation. Yeah, either we missed it, Rob, or something's up. why don't you try again and sign out again, sign in again. I'll look for it again, try to approve you. The best I can do. Oh, here it is, Rob. Let's try this. Approve. I see it now. So this should get Rob on. And I keep thinking, you know, when I got into the music business, I thought nobody would be interested in, when I got into the speaking business, nobody would be interested in the music business. And yet, hey, Rob, good morning. And yet what happened was,
That was easy.
yeah, people are fascinated with the old music days. Rob, I don't know if you had this experience as well. Rob's a vice president of sales at Staples. And do you ever tell people about the music days? Do they care?
To me, when I tell them, it's a coaching moment, because in corporate America, everything's about change. And they make you sit through like months and months of change seminars. You know, change is hard and you got to change. And it's like, I'm sitting there going, kill myself, because the band was all about change. I was conditioned, because like, Mike, your first instrument was a trumpet. Joe played the clarinet. Then we had to learn how to play weddings. And then we hated weddings. We had to do that to make money to record. Then we had to learn how to be a recording band in the studio. And then we had to learn about bars once I turned 18, I think, at the time. Then we had to learn how to play stadiums for like the new kids on the block warming up for headlining shows. And we had to learn how to change. You guys changed your instruments. We changed our style. We had to learn about the business, because we ran our own business. We converted the basement into offices, and you and Joe did all the booking. Dave had to learn how to write songs. Then I had to learn how to write songs. I had to learn how to sing. I mean, it was just, that's just what we had to do. So it's funny to me, and I think it's a good takeaway for people in corporate America about change. This should be, and I think the reason that it happens the way it does is a lot of the people have been doing the same job the same way for 30 years.
Yeah. And
coach that. So that's kind of, to me, the big takeaway on that.
And how about the connective tissue between your sordid past life and your current life? Do people give a shit about the fact you used to be in the music business?
I didn't tell anybody in corporate America for like 20, because I moved away.
Right.
So and we were mostly Midwest. Some people knew, but it wouldn't have helped my credibility at the time in corporate America, because I had to change, switch gears, cut my hair, get a job, and be that person. And they wouldn't have related to me as a manager if they thought, well, last year you were drumming in a rock band. Right. Now I tell everybody, because I'm old and it's cute, it's interesting, and people get a kick out of it. They still don't buy the records on iTunes. You know, the royalty checks are not coming in, but they think it's cute, so I'll take that.
When I got into the speaking business, I talked to some people about it, and they said, whatever you do, don't mention you were in the music business, because you're trying to distance yourself from it. No one will take you seriously. And so I didn't. And then later, I not to compare myself to Paul McCartney by any stretch, but McCartney distanced himself from the Beatles when he left. And then all of a sudden he became a Beatle cover band. That's really why you go to see McCartney now, he had a good career with Wings, but if he left out the Beatle numbers, nobody would go. And then I started, mentioning that I used to be in the music business, and that's all people want to talk about. I'll finish some magnificent thing about how to change your life, how to increase your sales, how to lead people more effectively. And then when I finish, I say, are there any questions? And they go, yeah, what was the name of your band,
Yeah, what was the name of your band?
What instrument did you play? And I'm like, I just gave you life-changing information, and all you want to know is something that happened 30 years ago. Hey, Renee, good morning.
Hey, Pam just messaged me. Just go out and come back in. Yeah, we did restart. We did a do-over.
Yeah. And Dave, feel free to tap Rob out when you want, and I'll let you back on camera. Some great comments coming up. And hello, Dean Pighead, who we used to work with in the music industry. Leslie's on with us, Laura, Kathy, our cousin. So, like I said earlier, it's like a Caruso family reunion right now.
Hey, one more quick comment. When we join, we have to rotate our phone, which means we can't see the comments. So if people are saying hello to me or whatever, I'll be able to watch it later.
Is your phone vertical or horizontal?
You have to make it horizontal in order to join.
Oh, okay. Well,
So I can't
I'll
see the
try to keep
comment.
everybody posted on what's happening.
So
Alicia,
if somebody says I look fat or whatever, let me know.
oh, a lot of people have.
Yeah.
Alicia Reed is on from the United Kingdom, everybody. Renee's on. She wants us to sing something. Yeah, that'll probably happen.
Okay.
Um,
Oh,
so some comments here. Michelle, I think it's pronounced Bison, who used to come see us years ago back at the Skylight Lounge. We were, Rob, for all intents and purposes, the house band there for years. And one of my chief memories of that place, so many, hi Whitney, how are you, is that we were like, we played, like Richard worked us to death. We liked it, of course. It was kind of like our 10,000 hours. But we worked there. I remember we worked there one time for 13 nights in a row. I thought Dave was going to kill me because his throat was killing him. And Lisa says she's got us plugged into her keyboard speakers with the sub connected, the subwoofer.
That's very good.
That's fantastic. Mary Rinker, not the Starlight in Taylor, the Skylight in Allen Park. It's on Southfield Road. It is now a CVS or something. And we worked there forever and learned a lot. Rob, what's your chief memory of the Skylight Lounge?
Oh, it's perfect. You had to learn how to negotiate. Talk about change.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
So we played the Skylight Lounge for 13 days. And we first played the Skylight Lounge. We almost got fired the first night because we were learning how to be a bar band.
Yeah.
And
by the way,
we didn't have the chops.
You were under.
Chops,
Hey, Royce,
nothing.
how are you? Royce Javon is on. I think that's how you say his last name. Everybody knows him as Royce. He's one of the premier singers in the Detroit area. Fantastic entertainer. He's been in it for years. Hi, Kelly. How are you? Rob, you were under 18 when we played the Skylight. I'm pretty sure.
But we built it up, right? And the next thing you know, the reason we played for 13 nights in a row is we were the top draw. People would line up outside the Skylight, around the side of the building, and it would be packed. We would have to get walked up to the stage, and someone would clear a space for us because there's a little room, not a lot of people. But I remember there were empty beer cases stacked to the ceiling behind the bar, which I'd never seen, right? From everybody drinking. It's just packed. And Mike goes to get paid, and, you know, the guy brings a quarter out and sets it on the table or whatever he does. And Mike's like, look, the place is packed. You guys are making a ton of money. We're supposed to be making more money if there's more people here. And the guy looks at Mike and says, look, Mike, I appreciate that, but nobody's drinking. That's the problem. No one's drinking. And Mike just started cracking up. It points to the beer cases. Remember that?
Yeah.
Me, that is just like, come on. We worked hard to get where we are.
And that was a slice of things to come because, you know, the world's getting smaller. And Richard Elawad, who owned the Skylight, was from Lebanon. And I don't know if you have the chance to do, hey, Charlene's on, Charlene Kemper. Hi, Lori Jane. If you've ever dealt with people from the Middle East, they're fantastic negotiators. So here I was, you know, 22, I don't know anything about anything. And now I'm negotiating, not only in the bar business, but I'm negotiating with a guy from the Middle East. And to be fair, Richard was always decent to us. He never abused us.
Richard is a great guy, and he did a lot of good for us.
Yeah, that's right. And he gave us our start and everything.
Absolutely.
But man, this guy was tighter than a drum. And you are right. I learned some of my best negotiation skills from Richard. Often late at night at 2:30 in the morning. It's not my most unusual story about getting paid, which I'll share with you in a bit. Ron says,
oh, yeah.
Ron says, think about all the big local band guys like Curtis and Flash that are still playing nights to this day. Yeah, a lot of people still in the business. Dave is still full-time in the music business, doing quite well. Dave, sign out of the thread and sign back in again and ask to be approved like you did last time. And it gives me a little pop-up that somebody wants to be on camera, and then I'll get you in and we'll tap Rob out. How's that sound?
And just a takeaway on that, that process goes very slowly.
Yeah.
So you send it. It might be 5 minutes before I get it back.
And we may find out, guys, that I have to release Rob in order for Dave to appear.
Please release me, let me go.
That's all I needed to hear right there. Bye, Rob. Okay, Dave, try one more time. Rob's off camera now, and I can finally think. Hey, Randy Lou Franklin, how are you? I don't know if you're from the South, but you sound like you're from the South, Randy Lou. So the most unusual story about getting paid, we were in Cleveland. Yeah, I'm not inviting you, Dave. You either have to sign, you have to either, there you are. So now we're getting the hang of this. Approving Dave. So we were in Cleveland playing at a place called geez, I can't remember the name of it now, but hey, welcome back. So we were at a place in Cleveland, and this was a very adult-oriented bar, not adult-themed, just it was a much bigger league bar than the old Skylight was. The Skylight catered to a younger crowd. This was later in our career. And the guy that ran the place was named Tex, and he had a couple of partners in the bar, but Tex was my main contact. I'm pretty sure that wasn't his real name. Royce, you'll identify with this. And so we played one night and did quite well, and but not as well as Tex thought we were going to do. And I go to get paid, and Tex says, "I'm not quite ready for you yet. Can you come back and see me in a minute?" So I went back, and we're loading out, helping the guys get out of there. And the guys are looking at their watches, they're yawning, it's tired, and they want to leave and go back to the hotel. This is in Cleveland. And I don't know what to do because we only have a couple of cars, and we're already breaking our routine to leave one guy at the bar alone. So that's not something we were used to doing. Yeah, Rob, we'll talk about Pablo too. Let's remind me. And so finally I released the guys. I said, listen, you guys go back to the hotel. I'll take care of this. Cross my fingers, hope things work out. Sent the guys back. I think this was way before Uber or Lyft or anything. I think I kept one of the cars for myself. They all went back somehow, or they made 2 trips back to the hotel. I forget what we did, but they all went back to the hotel, and now I'm waiting to get paid. I'm tired. I'm getting a little annoyed that this isn't happening as fast as it should be. We're supposed to be get paid right as soon as we're done playing, and now I'm alone. I'm 28 or whatever I am in a strange city, and it's 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. Tex says, "I'm almost ready for you. Come see me in a few minutes. I got nothing to do now because everybody's left the bar. The help is cleaning up." And finally, I sit down at the bar, and now Tex wants to bring me a drink. That's not a good sign. I wanted to bring me money. He's bringing me a drink. Dave knows this story very well. And so he now has a drink. I can tell he's blasted. And I'm drinking with a guy I don't care to drink with at 3 o'clock in the morning. I got nothing else to do here except get paid and get back to the hotel. And we got to get out of there in the morning because we got someplace else to go. So Tex bears the truth to me at this late hour, right? This early hour in the morning. He says, Michael, we thought we were going to see more people here tonight. Same old story. Royce, probably heard this a million times in your career. And he says, we don't really have the cash. We don't have the door. It's called the door. The door didn't happen tonight like we thought it would. So we really don't have the cash. And he said, tell me, what else can I do for you, Mike? He called me Mike. And I said, well, what do you mean? What else can you do for me? You can pay me. And he said, well, like I said, I don't have the cash. What else can I do for you? And I couldn't understand what he was getting at for maybe because I was foggy. I don't know. But eventually he said, look, can you use some blow? He wanted to pay me in cocaine. And it was funny on a couple of levels. One is that we didn't do drugs. And so it was a non-offer for me, right? In order to accept his cocaine as payment, I'd have to go sell it later in the night. I'm way out of my league. And the second thing is I couldn't explain to this dude that we needed his cash to pay the hotel bill in order to check out in the morning, right? We didn't have money to get out of the hotel. And it was extremely uncomfortable. And finally, he found some cash, which I knew he had the whole time. You remember that story, Dave?
Yes. Now it's time to bring Rob back.
Yeah. You have a favorite story from the Skylight? Something that you remember? You played there a million nights.
I remember they had this pipe hanging from the ceiling that was for hanging lights on, and I used to try to pull myself up on it while we were in the show. Yeah. We used just about anything we could grab onto or do. I used to climb on the speakers there a little bit. It was a great little thing. I also remember having watched Queen on Live Aid, and Freddie Mercury took a mic stand and took the piece off of it, the little post off of it. So I copied him, which made no sense because I was nothing like Freddie Mercury. But I took the boom off of the mic stand, and I used to use that live at the Skylight as, for performance purposes. We didn't have a lot of room. we only had a little bit of room between the bass and the keyboards for me to walk up, and I couldn't get over to the other side of the stage at all. It was very narrow. So I liked having props to work with to make the show a little bit more fun.
Yeah, a lot of these bars, you know, the footprint wasn't ideally suited for the band. It was suited for the bar. The bars are long. This place was like shaped like a piece of spaghetti, and so the stage was really long. I don't think we could stand in. Nobody stood in front of anybody. Maybe I don't even think the drum riser you could get past it.
Yeah, we were in front of, there was a little narrow thing in front of the drum riser.
Okay, so this is one of the trials and tribulations of being in the music business. You work with whatever stage they have when you get there. And we used to complain endlessly about this because it limited us. We were a very visual act. Mary Rinker comments that her and her sister, they were 9 years apart, Dave. And Mary, who's the older sister, bought the Caruso album. There's an old term. And we can talk about that in a second. And says that her sister stole her album from her. That's how long we were in the business. Apparently, we're touching the oldest and the youngest person in the family during our tenure. Hi, Lindsay. Good morning. How are you? Dave, more thoughts? Rob says Jaggers was a great venue. Jaggers in Waterford Township.
Oh, I didn't prep my own thoughts. I was waiting for questions. Sorry about that.
Yeah, quick.
I had a great time with you guys. We always looked out for each other. That was the best part about it. You never had to worry, no matter where we were in the country, whatever kind of trouble broke out, we looked out for each other. And so did our crew. Wow, I got a frog. So did our crew. Our crew was really awesome. I remember one day we were at a college gig and we had an alarm system. It was kind of newish at that time because there were no cell phones. Well, there were bag phones, but there were no cell phones. We had a little device that would notify us if somebody pushed on or moved the truck in any way. We had one of those cube vans.
Yeah, it was a shaker alarm or something.
Yeah, so it's a huge white cube-shaped truck in the front and a big cube on the back, and all of our equipment was piled in it. It had a big door that you pushed up like that, and well, I'm describing it for everybody. So when we were in the gig, I think we were doing a sound check. I don't think it was quite the gig yet. And Dave Lissick was our sound man at the time, and Kevin Mitchell was our light guy. So they were amazing as a part of our crew. We had lots of great crew members over the years, and we love them all, and we're very thankful for them. John Bergen was on the crew. He's signed in right now. Hi, John. Anyway, this alarm went off, and you should have seen Dave and Kevin run. They took off in a run like I'd never seen them run before to go check on our gear, because they looked out for things like that. They really took it seriously. Yeah. And you know, we had to stay with the gear that was in the bar, or whatever the college venue was. And they were checking on the truck, but it was hilarious. And it was a false alarm anyway. Nothing happened.
Yeah.
So,
well, you can imagine
but
we're in a club playing, it's nighttime, all kinds of shenanigans in the parking lot. That truck got rattled every night. It seemed like the alarm was going off. And you're right, we did look out for each other. Speaking of Jaggers, hi, Jim Batchelor. Wow, look at that, from Trenton High School. Steve Kern, Steve Kazan, Tom Schmidt, Alan Haber, welcome. I think Alan's your buddy, mostly Dave.
Hi, Alan.
And Ron's asking what year this was. He was around like 1981 to 1991. It depends on when you start counting, but it was around that decade. A quick story from Jaggers and about looking out for each other. Hey, Omar, how are you? We got to the gig one night. It was load-in day, and at that point we had a crew, an advanced crew, like roadie kind of a thing, a road crew, and they would go 4 or 5 hours ahead of us and set up the room and lights and sound and get everything tweaked so that the band could come in, do a quick sound check, and then we would start. We got there one time, and I think it was Jeff Ravis who said, "You got to talk to the owner." His name was Pat. Nice guy under most conditions. This was a strange situation. He said, "Pat unloaded on us today." And I said, are you sure? I mean, he's such a nice guy. And he said, yeah, he was. I said, how bad was it? He said he was verbally abusive. So I'm Jeff's boss, and it's my job to stand up for Jeff if Jeff's in the right. And I remember getting the thing in the pit of my stomach. Again, I'm 27, 28 years old. I got to go in and yell at the bar owner about how he treated my guy. But it was a lesson, you know, for me, that you got to stand up for your crew. You got to stand up for your people. You got to stand up for what's right. And just because I wasn't in the room didn't give Pat the right to abuse Jeff. And Jeff was upset. So I did. And Pat told me his side of the story, and I told him my side of the story. And I said, if you're going to treat us, any of us, like this, we can't work here. That was my bottom line to him. And as I said it, I'm like, holy hell, what am I saying to this guy? We're here like 8, 10 weeks a year. We can't afford to not have this room. There weren't a lot of places to play live even then. And this was before this was right around the time disco, a little bit after disco. Disco was like 75, 78. And then karaoke was coming in. So the pressure for live to find live rooms was really great. Anyway, that's a quick Jagger story. What else you got, Dave?
I wanted to mention that we got this really cool thing coming up with Rob here in Grosse Ile, which is just a city away. And it's a keyboard and drum show. September 29th, it's a Saturday, it's 2 weeks from today. And it's called Rock on the Grass. And we've been rehearsing like crazy. And if you guys have been paying attention to Facebook, I've been doing this thing that I came up with called a rehearsal challenge or rehearsal off. And I do a song and then I send it down to Rob and he does the same song. It's very fun. So check out those videos on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Dave Caruso Music. And then as far as the event goes, if you go to your events on Facebook and look for September 29th, you'll see the Rock on the Grass event there. We'll give you all the details for how to get to it. But we really want you to come because it's going to be a big deal. Rob hasn't played here for 3 years, and we never know when the next one's going to be, if at all, because it's not that easy to do. It takes a lot of coordination, a lot of rehearsal, a lot of effort. We'd love to have you there. And I guess I've pushed it hard enough. There it is.
Yeah. Hello to Nancy Roberts and Richard Bollinger. Dave, what we can do afterward is we'll post the link to your event in the comments. How's that?
Sure.
And I appreciate you inviting me along as well. I have to be in Erie that weekend. This is the weekend of the 28th and 29th, right? What is the day?
26th, Saturday.
Oh, 20.
I'm sorry, 29th.
Yeah, 29.
I said 26th. 29th, Saturday.
Okay, and it's in Grosse Ile. A bit of backstory. Hey, Nancy Roberts. A bit of backstory on the, and I'll let Dave release Dave in a second so Rob can get back on camera.
You can, you can push that button whenever you want, and then Rob will pop
Okay.
on.
We'll get you back in a minute, Dave. Rob, a bit of backstory. Rob has been down south for quite a while. He first moved to Texas, Houston, right about the time his second daughter was being born. And my dad was getting sick right around that time. And I think my dad got to hold Julie, the second daughter, once or twice. Rob will tell you when he gets back on here. It broke my heart that my dad couldn't enjoy his second granddaughter, but he died at age 72. Both of my parents died really young. Our mom died at age 60. Dad died at 72. So we've been without them for a while. And I often think that they would really enjoy where we've gone with our lives, and I miss them. I'm sure the guys do too. So after Rob got settled in Houston with one company, I think that's when he made the shift to Staples, and then he moved to Louisiana to here he comes. He moved to Louisiana to New Orleans in a place called Mandeville, right off the big bridge there. And now he's in Baton Rouge, which is why Dave talks about, sharing music with him live, which is, by the way, how a lot of business is done these days in the music business. People, like, you could get a mixer or somebody to do your album, and they don't even live in your city. You just send them the files. And I think that's what Dave was talking about when he sends you, what did you send you a video, Rob, or you do tag video, something like that?
Yeah, he posted on YouTube. I think it's kind of complicated because I actually have my daughter do my part for me, the technical part, but I think they posted on YouTube. And by the way, my daughter's going to be singing a song in that show too with us.
Oh, good. Natalie.
Great.
Yeah, Rob's daughters are so talented. He's got I don't know what happened, but there's something about, I don't know, the kids today that got terrific ears. I thought we had pretty good ears, but your daughters sing in tune like nobody's business.
They sing better than we do.
Yeah, and I don't know I don't know what it is exactly. If it's what do you think that is, Rob?
I think it's the luck of the draw.
Think so?
Well, to be fair, I meet a lot of their friends, and a lot of their friends sing pretty damn well too. So
yeah, Hi to
Maybe they
Richard Bolt.
practice a lot with their cell phones, like millennials do, and sing a lot and record themselves, and maybe that helps.
Right, yeah. We want to
But
say
they
hi to
sound
Richard
a lot of
Bollinger.
the difference is a lot of these younger kids emulate someone to the point where they sound exactly like Christina Aguilera or whomever, that they do a certain voice. They put on a voice. That's what I've noticed, as opposed to being actually versatile and
Well,
being able to,
yeah,
sing.
here's the thing that I've never mentioned to anybody before, but maybe the fact that music is so available. When we were kids, you had to have a 45, going back, you had to have a turntable, and you had to be able to drop the needle on the turntable in order to sing along with a song on command. If you got lucky, you could find a song on the radio. Today, if you got YouTube, you just go to your song, you can rehearse it over and over again. Karaoke, same thing, rehearse it over and over and over again, and you could sing right along with your role model. Let me say hi to some folks, Rob. Sandy Ross is here, Jared Spar, Richard Bollinger from down south, Nancy Roberts, who came to see our band any night she could. She was one of our most regular fans, and we so appreciated that, especially on the nights nobody else showed up, Nancy. Lisa Satko, Pam Geary's here, also a big fan back in the day. Kelly Anderson, Ted Gravlin. Ted's got some stories. Ted's band and our band played on the same bill many, many, many times, and we really enjoyed working with them. Karen is on. Thanks. Good morning, Karen. What else, Rob? What did you learn anything that in the music business besides change? Anything that helps you today? Something about the creative process, or
Yeah, I'll give you another one. Comes to mind. I was talking about training, corporate training, and a lot of the things that they teach now. Of course, they change things around, just like you see in the news. Coffee's good for you. Coffee's bad for you. Wine's good for you. Wine's bad. They changed the direction, but today's training, a lot of it is about go with your strengths. It used to be develop all your weaknesses. Now it's go with your strengths. Do what you're best at.
Yeah.
And I think we learned from trial and error in our band, because when the disco craze came, now we were just wedding band at that time. We weren't very good, but we tried to do some. I think we covered Donna Summer's "Bad Girls" or something. And I think we did a Van Halen song. Not well, but we learned how to go with our strength. Somebody mentioned that they got our album, which is always hilarious because we did 3 albums. But that's typical with, Elvis Costello is on his 20th, and people go, yeah, I got his first one. I love that album. Well, what about the other 19? Did you check those out? Short attention span theater. But I think that we learned to go with our strengths, and you guys, you had to make the bass your strength. You had to get real good at it. Joe had to learn how to play guitar. Yeah. He had to switch from clarinet to saxophone, got very good on the sax, and we had to get better at singing. But we went with our strengths, and I think that was a good driver for our band's success.
Sure. I know Joe wanted to be here today. He's got other stuff going on. We'll do this again sometime when we can get everybody or a different combination of people. I think it's fun. Alan Haber says, and this may be for Dave, could you guys have accomplished what you did back in the day in the current landscape? And I can't see the rest of the comment. So Dave, if you can see it, maybe you can speak to that when I release Rob here and bring you back on. Let's keep Rob for a couple more seconds. You triggered something in me, Rob, about Joe. Joe was, I think, better than anybody in the band at Change. And I don't know if it's related to his situation when he was 19 years old. Some of you don't know that Joe was diagnosed with testicular cancer at age 19. He had a full ride music scholarship to Central Michigan University. Joe was a very impressive young man. And he came home one weekend and he had a little discomfort down below. And he went to the doctor, and the doctor misdiagnosed it, as I recall, Rob. Yep. He went back to school and lived with it for a little while longer. The next time he comes home, he can hardly walk. He's in real pain. And they get him to the doc, and they say right away, we got to do something about this. It's in his book, actually. He wrote a book about and opens the book with this chapter. And I don't know if Joe changed after that or if he was always like this, but it certainly it certainly would explain why he became the person he became, that he came back from the dead. And then he had such a zest for life. Joe learned 4 or 5 instruments for the band as his way of, changing. When we needed somebody to understand mixing in the back of the room, Joe learned mixing, and
He went
would
to school
set our.
for it.
What's
Yeah,
that?
he went to recording engineering school.
That's right.
And the band paid for it. Yep.
And because we will sometimes work with guys that we had to train, Joe would actually mix the band and then get on stage and play with us, and leave the guy behind the guy behind the console to just do volumes and easy stuff until he got the hang of it. And Joe was amazing. He could like learn an instrument in a week. I'm sure I'm exaggerating, but he was remarkable at this. Alto, he learned all the saxophones: alto, tenor, soprano. I don't know about soprano, but he had clarinet, flute. He learned flute just to play one song, "Color My World" by Chicago. Right.
The flute is in the key of C. The clarinet is in the key of B flat.
All different fingerings.
Then one of the saxes is in an E flat. So, and I know this because I was a band director for a couple of years, a marching band director, and I had to learn at least that much about all the instruments. That's when the band was breaking up, and we had to find something to do.
And he played rhythm guitar.
What's that?
Rhythm guitar.
He got real good when one of our guitar players, Arnie Newman, started giving him lessons. Because we always had a fifth person. None of us played lead. And Arnie really, those two really got tight together, and it really made the band better. You were talking about the sound checks, and I just want to make a quick comment. Joe everyone knows how close we all were. I mean, we still are, but it's, we were in each other's pockets all day, every day. And Joe, we were fans of each other. Joe was a big fan of what Dave and I had done as the core of the band. So Joe really enjoyed going out there and getting the mix in the beginning. And when he went out there, Dave would start playing piano. And he'd play an Elton John song or something. And then Joe would give him the cue while he's walking around listening to the sound, making sure it's nice and powerful and loud. And he'd tell him to start singing. And Dave would start singing and playing. Now he's got the vocal mix, and he's got and I'm just chomping at the bit, can't wait to get up there and hear what my drums sound like in this room tonight. It's so fun.
Yeah.
And so then I'd start playing along with him, and then he would cue me to sing.
Yeah.
So what happened was we would have two people, and I noticed a lot of times after he had already had the sound done, he would just tell us to do another one, and he was just listening to us because he liked it. And we would do songs like Temporary Beauty by Graham Parker, and we actually got better as a duo doing that. And that brings me back to the September 29th show. That's the kind of stuff we're going to do. That's why I'm so excited about it, because we're going back to the days of the two instruments. It gets to a point after a while where we were a fine-tuned machine. It was loud. There's 5 people on stage. We're playing our own music. The place is packed. We're working on the crowd, and it's precision. But when Dave and I play together, it's 2 people listening to each other, feeding off each other. It's a different gig. And I'm looking forward to this after, Dave said I came to play 3 years ago. But there's a long span. I only bought a drum set last year. So technically, I don't really play the drums anymore. I do now. I'm getting back to it. But I'm really excited, and it's fun for me. Actually, when I close my eyes at night, I think about it.
Yeah.
Of going back to doing this with Dave. So I hope people come out and see it. It's not going to be a spectacular rock and roll show. It's not going to be a high-energy, full band gig. It's just going to be, a bunch of people that maybe haven't gotten together in a long time, sharing some memories.
Yeah. I want to bring Dave back in a sec to have him answer an earlier question about what we would do different today. But let me ask you the same thing before you go. What would you do different today? And just to set the stage, everybody, the music business is so, like, life is so different than it used to be in the 80s. When we were on the college circuit, and there was no GPS, we were like using maps, paper maps, at night, trying to find our way. If you've ever been on a big campus, all the buildings look the same. we'd have to stop to try to find a payphone, then try to find a dime to use the payphone so we could call the venue and let them know that we were in the area but just needed some directions. Everything was
One
different.
time we didn't call though, and that was the time that I think you were driving, that you drove the van into a snowbank.
We did.
Literally, we were done. Remember that?
Not on purpose. You make it
We're
sound
like,
like I did it on purpose.
What time is it now? What time's the gig? And
The roads were treacherous.
We just looked at, it was terrible. We should
It
not
could
have
happen to anybody. But to be fair, I almost killed my entire family.
So that's what I would do differently.
Yeah, have somebody else drive.
I would have avoided the snowbank.
And the equipment back then was so heavy. The lights were so heavy and big. And now these guys tour with these speakers that are so small. You know, a German Shepherd could put it on its back and carry it into the club. You know, so can you think of anything offhand that you would do differently today?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we were successful beyond it. No doubt we were successful. Everyone defines success differently, but it gave me the building blocks in my life to be able to be successful, being in the band, learning from all that, and having the luxury of doing it. But I think one thing we might have done better was and we tried to a little bit, get out of our circle. We wanted to do everything ourselves, and we did. We tried to get producers on different albums, that's why our albums all sound different, because each producer thought they wanted us to sound like this or this or this. But we really never built that core of people, the manager, the producer, and got out of Detroit, you know, with somebody maybe in LA or somewhere where a lot of the other bands go, where there's a bigger set of resources, diverse set of resources to help us branch out. So I think, if anything, we kind of did it the hard way. That'd be my take. And I'm not one of those people that says we should have, would have, could have. I don't know that I would change it. I think that it might have been different if we would have branched out a bit.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. We'll bring you back in a sec. So I concur that I always thought, you know, we're from Trenton, Michigan. None of we couldn't draw from other resources. If some guys, when they're in a band, gals, they're in a band, one of the sets of parents is rich, right? And they become benefactors for the band. Well, we all share the same parents, so everything came from the same narrow resource pool. Dave, if you want to resubmit for your camera, we'll get you on. And the other thing, we were from Trenton, Michigan, which was a hard place to get signed from. There was nothing going on in the Detroit scene during those years. You know, this is way before Eminem, way before Kid Rock. Well, I guess the Romantics had happened. Remember the Romantics, What I Like About You, and those kind of bands? Hey, Tekla, how are you? We want to say hi to Johnny D, very talented speaker. Kelly Morgan's with us. Kathleen Mahoney, Charlotte Fairchild from Hiram, Georgia. And it was really hard to get signed from a place like Trenton. I got a quick story while Dave's trying to get back on. So back in the day, CKLW, which was the big station in Detroit, it was an AM station. And if you were going to, you know, have a hit and get into the top 40, you had to get on CKLW. But CK had a very unusual thing about it, and that was CKLW is in Windsor, and Windsor's really close to Detroit. But Windsor had this thing, like Canadian broadcasting stations had this thing called Canadian Content, or CanCon. And what happened was, if your song was written by somebody from Canada, or you recorded in Canada, or your band was Canadian, then CKLW would give you favored status, and they'd move you into something called high rotation, right? And so if you could leverage CanCon, you would do well. And I just read recently that Alice Cooper, who was from Phoenix, but always told everybody he was from Detroit for street cred, he used CanCon to break for songs like School's Out for Summer, right? And those kind of songs, because they recorded at a studio in Canada. How cool is that? And Dave, at one point, we actually tried to leverage that. We're talking about what we would have changed if we would have done it differently. This idea of getting signed would have been we had a nice little kind of an ancillary or ancillary agreement with RCA Records, but never got signed to a major label in that way. Dave, what would you do different if you were doing it today? And does that answer Haber's question?
Well, the first thing is that, yeah, it was Alan Haber. Hi, Alan. The first thing that I want to mention is that, yes, the landscape has changed, but we wouldn't be able to take what we know now with us if we went back. You know, if everything was different, we'd still be in our early 20s and we still have that mindset. I think there's a lot more to learn from being older than there is from the changing landscape, because we would have adapted to that however it was necessary. We would have taken to YouTube like a fish, you know, in water. We would have taken to all this stuff really well. We'd have done well with it. But I think the main thing that we should have had our eye on is to not worry so much about getting that record contract. And I think that all along, getting a record contract has been a bad idea, but it's what every band wants. It's what every band works for. But when you get a record contract, they basically own you, and you're going to basically do what they want. You're going to record the kind of songs they want. You're going to release the kind of singles they want. And very few bands like Queen get to release a single, you know, in their third year or whatever it is, called Bohemian Rhapsody, and do what they want and say, we know we can change things if we can be ourselves, if we can be different, and different than the pack, and show what we have to offer that nobody else has. We had things to offer that nobody else had to offer, and that wasn't necessarily what a recording on a major label would have wanted from us. And I think that that's the big rub. And I think that that's what I started to realize in '87 when I wanted to stop trying anymore, because we did London, we did the In the Face album, and we thought London was a killer single. We really thought that was the way to go. By the way, as a songwriter, I wasn't that happy with it because it was so repetitive. But the repetition was part of our appeal to try to make a hit record. And that's what it was for.
Yeah.
During the lyric, I'm also getting down on, you know, carbonated, sugary songs. You know, I was criticizing music at the same time. But I think when I found out that record, which we put so much effort into, and we recorded it with a synclavier, which is the most expensive thing a studio could buy at that time, it seems like. All digital, and then digital tape it used. We didn't make it. We didn't get what we wanted. So I think that quest to be signed would be something I would have crossed off my list a little earlier if I knew what I know now, which is a different question than Alan asks. As far as how things would be different, I think we would have just totally taken to everything in terms of the web, Facebook. We would have taken to all that. We'd have done fine. But I'm also glad we didn't have it then, because our emotions, you know, some of the things that I've done in my life with doing pianos was so off color, and it's no longer acceptable. So the things that you did then would be forever on the web, and we would have been young and maybe had a few drinks and said something or did something that we would regret later in our business lives. So in that way, I don't know. But again, like Rob, I don't have a lot of regrets.
Yeah.
I wish this could have been different maybe, but it's not really a regret. It's like, I wish we could go back and tweak that and see what would happen. That's all.
It's interesting. While you've been talking, London's been getting a lot of love in comments. I think what Dave's, and not to put words in your mouth, Dave, but I think what Dave's getting at here is a lot of times when you're in love with an industry, or you're in love with a concept, and then you're thrust into the industry tends to shape you, especially if you're in a creative industry, shape you in ways that you're not fond of. We hear actors talking all the time about how a movie didn't turn out the way they wanted it to. By the way, they go on all the talk shows and say it's great and they loved working with their co-stars, and then the truth comes out some years later. But we often hear from bands that weren't happy with the way the record company treated them, for example. And yet that's the platform that allows you to do bigger things. It's true in the publishing business too, right? Editors taking apart changing your book title, that kind of stuff.
Well, through the RCA, through the Miller Music sponsorship that we had, Miller Rock Network, we got the RCA 2 songs on their RCA albums. And RCA wanted to sign us, but they only wanted to sign us if we wanted to be a ballad band a la Air Supply. They wanted an Air Supply. And we said we didn't want to be Air Supply. And I think I was the holdout vote on that. I was the one that said, I've written a lot of ballads. I'm good at it, but I don't want to make a living from it. I don't want everything we do to be a ballad, because that's not how I want to make my mark. You know, I want to do it all.
Yeah.
I want to be flexible, and we turned it down because that was kind of something they insisted on, and that was our RCA opportunity.
It's funny. I've been watching a lot of, well, I always watch music and stuff and interviews and stuff. And REO Speedwagon and Chicago, same thing. They resent their ballads, which blows my mind, because Chicago wouldn't be half the band they are if they didn't have those ballads. But they felt the ballads were thrust upon them by the producer, David Foster. They hated David Foster for it. They still comment about it rather obliquely, but you can still say, you can still hear it in their tone of voice. Even in concerts, they say, we're not really fond of this.
Well, from the band's perspective, we had 1 or 2 ballads per album, you know, 1 or 2.
Well, you were really good.
And so then there's all this other music that didn't even get recorded, and it's all fast. And we had so much we wanted to say and do, and it wasn't getting, you know, on the album. So.
Right. I want to say hi to Brad McNett, very talented musician here in the Detroit area. Cousin Mary Caruso's joined us. Maybe again, I thought I saw your name earlier. Kim Stanton is on with us, and John Martinson, our old pal from Trenton High School. John had.
And anybody we might be missing, anybody we haven't said hi to, hello.
John had.
Because we don't see every name.
John had. John's in a family business as well, so he understands what it's like to work with your family. His brothers, and I think his dad. His dad has passed, sadly, but the family business is not an easy thing to do. And do you feel that you became? Was that more problematic for us, or was it a gift, or both?
The problem wasn't being family. The problem was being around each other 100% of the time. We woke up in the morning. We lived in our parents' house. We got up. We had breakfast at the same table, and we started talking to each other about what was going on. Then we go downstairs to our separate desks, which were all on 4 separate walls of the basement. Everybody had a separate wall of this big basement with a door, a giant, you know, a door like you use in your house, a door for a desk. And that door was flat, and you know, we hung our rock posters up above it, and we each sat at our desk, and Mike would route different meeting notes to us and have all of our names, Mike, Joe, Dave, Rob. We would check our name off that we read this thing that he read that we needed to know either about an upcoming gig or an upcoming itinerary or something in the music business that he thought we should know. So it was band, 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 band all the time. Then we'd get in the car to drive to a gig, all of us in one car. Sometimes we're the 5th musician. Then we get off stage, or out of the car, set up together, and that was a big discussion and lots of talking. Then there was the backstage area. We were together again. We go on stage, we play, we take down, we do it all backwards, and we're in each other's pocket, as Rob said, all the time. That is no good for anybody, even in a marriage. So it wasn't the family thing. Family-wise, we're good. Family-wise, we support each other, we respect each other, we have each other's backs. But yeah. You just can't get too much of anybody. And I'm sure I was a pain in the ass, so I'll take my share of that.
Well, we both probably took our turns being annoying. But you're right, the familiarity thing breeds contempt sometimes, and there was no escape. I remember when we finally went our separate ways after giving it a really good go. I think it was probably 12 years really trying hard to do something with this. And we made some great headway, but I think all of us would agree that we didn't we didn't reach the pinnacle of success by any stretch. But I remember when we
always said we were a big fish in a small pond or a small fish in a big pond. That was our life. And it was 12 years with me, and then you guys went for several years after that, trying some more.
Yeah. But you know, when we went our separate ways, one of the first of course, shocking to the system. It was like getting a divorce, I imagine. You know, I was getting divorced from my brother. It was very painful. And finding my way and finding another job, finding a career now, 10 years behind schedule, by the way, of everybody that was my age. You guys went through the same thing. The first thought I could have that I could actually articulate to another human being was I was a Caruso brother, and I wasn't myself. We were all the same. We met the same people. We dated, in some cases, dated the same girls. We played in all the same places. If we went out someplace. We all went together. We didn't have.
Not only that, it was worse than that because I didn't know how to be myself when I wasn't in the band. I didn't know what my character was. I didn't know what my personality was. And I'm still terrible in social situations because the guy on the stage is who I was almost all the time. And it's what I was used to being.
Yeah. Hi, Patty. How are you? Nice to see you. The songs that are being mentioned, London, YouTube, London. There's another song called Young and Tender. If you want to check out YouTube, I have some on my channel. I think Dave has versions on his channel, and you can watch them there. And Young and Tender in particular is a favorite of mine because it's like a video retrospective of the band. It starts with us as kids. And Dave did a fantastic job editing this. And it's just the song playing over it, but he's using like old 8mm home movies. It's fascinating.
Debbie Melchi deserves credit too. She came to me with a college project. She wanted to do something with the band, and I got all the footage together and put it in a certain order and everything. And she had this, like I said, college class. So Debbie Melchi was basically the project manager on that, and we put it all together.
Yeah. Let's get Rob back on, Dave, and then we'll come back on
Sure.
one more time with you and say goodbye, okay?
Okay.
Hang on. So I hope this has been fun for everybody. Hey, Tom Caruso, another cousin on with us. And that was kind of fun too, watching the older cousins, because like everybody else, we're trying to model the people that were a couple of years ahead of us. I remember Tom had he had the great record collection, right? We had records that we were on such a budget at that age. We could only buy the records that we absolutely, needed to have. And Tom had the most amazing these are called LPs, all you youngsters, long play, vinyl. And he had the best record collection. I remember that vividly. Pam Geary says she remembers our red Econoline van, and it's true. We started with a little short green van. It had a stick shift, and I remember my dad and my brother were standing in front of the van one time. I tried to start it without putting the clutch in. I almost took out 2/3 of my family. And then we moved to the red Econoline van, which had an extra area added to the back, so it was extra long. Then we bought a white box van from hell. The engine would stop running. It was a very temperamental thing. And the early days of computers in cars, and they kept telling us it's the computer, and we learned to hate that phrase. We actually left that truck, Rob. We actually left that truck on the side of the road in Ohio because we needed to get to a gig. The truck had broken down. And so we called the rental place, and they brought the rental car to us. We backed the trucks up, loaded one truck into the other, actually left the truck there. And I don't know if we ever went back to get it. I can't quite remember, but that was an adventure. Do you recall the truck incident?
I'm still laughing about you driving in the snowbank and then almost killing your
Oh,
brother.
for God's sake, get over it. It happened years ago.
What was your question?
I should have got his T-bone on the car on the side you were riding on. That's what I should have done. We didn't have a lot of danger. There was some fighting in some of the places we played.
Yeah, I think you left out the guy that put the Coke on the table at the bar to pay you with Coke.
Oh, no, I told it earlier.
No, but he also put a gun on the table.
Oh, a couple of guys had guns.
Yeah, so that Mike would go in there to get paid, and the first thing the bar owner would do is get his gun and set it on the table. I'm not sure what that's for. Mike, maybe you should have pulled your gun out and put it on the table. Bar owners were just crazy people.
Well, part of that was they had to be prepared for the worst, right? Crazy people, robberies, all kinds of stuff. I kind of understand. I didn't understand why they needed to show it to me.
Because you're so imposing.
I don't know.
Think about it. Italian?
I guess if you got a gun, you wanted to show it to everybody, right? Maybe that was part of it.
Sure.
But one of the things I remember is there were a lot of fights at the Skylight because kids were young. They didn't know how to handle their alcohol. Is that we learned early on that you just keep playing if you're in the band. And at times I thought, what are we? We're playing like at a rodeo right now,
Blues Brothers.
Yeah. And we just keep playing because if we stopped playing and drew attention to the fight, everybody would leave, and that would be no good for anybody. So we're on stage and we're just watching it, hoping nothing, chairs land up on our stage, right? But it was
Stand
just
by your man, throwing stuff at the chicken wire. There were nights like that for sure.
yeah. So we're getting ready to sign off. Favorite songs, favorite legacy of the band.
One of these days was a fine song. Nobody mentioned that one.
So what happened in the band? Rob kind of opened the conversation with us. He said, change was rife in the band because we were fighting for survival, right? We were trying to dig our way out of Trenton, Michigan, and get discovered in the music business. And Dave had an early talent for songwriting. Dave was gifted in songwriting. He actually scored his own class song with a string section. It's actually called Class Song. So check it out. Dave wrote his senior class song as a junior in high school. It was voted class song, and I think he performed it at graduation.
He was the class president, as was Joe. So instead of doing that boring commencement speech, as you go through the journey of life, they put a piano on the football field, and he just walked up to the piano and sang his class song, didn't say one, and then just said something like, congratulations. Coolest thing he ever did. And then other schools downriver, Cabrini High School and a couple others, made it their class song.
Yeah, because it spoke to everybody. And it talked about growing up and the trials and tribulations and Sadie Hawkins and stuff like this. It's a great song.
Talented.
And it might be available.
Amazing.
It might be available on YouTube, or reach out to Dave if you want to hear it. He'll find a way to make it available to you. But anyway, so Dave's like this Billy Joel guy, piano. And he thinks like in terms of arrangements. He's got more classical training than we do, and he knows theory and stuff like that. Alicia Reed and I were talking about theory the other day. And then what we discovered was Dave gave us a certain kind of song. Ballads, certainly fantastic. But we were missing the edginess, we thought. And he had some good, pop songs too. But you developed, and fairly quickly, I thought, a skill for writing concise, energetic pop songs. And one of these days certainly filled that void. Dave left the band a little bit early to pursue his own interest. And I give him credit. He hung out with us he hung around with us less talented people for a lot longer than I thought he might. And then when he left, you picked up the songwriting duties and actually wrote some very, very good songs. And I don't know if those are quite as available on YouTube, are they?
Dave put an album together. It's on iTunes. You can get it on iTunes. And it's all of our music. I think it's called Caruso 80s Remastered. And he was nice enough to put the songs on that we did after he left too. So it's like an anthology. It might be called anthology, but you can get it on iTunes for whatever albums sell for. I mean, it's pretty cheap, and you can hear from the very beginning up to some of the last stuff. And he's even got some demos on there.
Yeah.
And he had it remastered and he released it on iTunes. It's probably on Amazon. It's probably on anywhere you can get music. And as I said, those royalty checks, I'm still waiting. Haven't. I'm going to check my mailbox in a minute. See, maybe there's one today, but yeah.
Well, everybody looks forward to seeing you when you come to town, Rob, on Saturday the 29th down in Grosse Ile. And for those of you in southeastern Michigan, for those of you not in southeastern Michigan, you can hit us up on YouTube, or Dave's website is fantastic. He's got a nice little compendium there and a history of the Caruso band and some of the other projects that he's done. And I'm sorry I'm going to miss you when you come to town, but we'll catch up with you soon in person. Okay.
Thanks for doing this. Mike just about a week and a half ago texted Dave and I and said, I do this thing Saturday mornings. I said, I know, I watch some of them when I'm up. We're in the central time zone here. And he said, would you guys let me interview you? We could all just get together and have a loosey-goosey kind of thing. And we both said, yeah. And then he said, we can mention your show coming up too. I said, what a guy. So Thank you so much for doing that.
You're welcome. I've been watching, by the way, for Lucy Goosey to say hi. She's never shown up after all that.
Yeah, we keep her. Best keep her behind them.
Listen, I love you, and we'll see you soon, okay?
Love you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
We'll finish up and say goodbye to Dave in just a second. Come on and log on, Dave. I see that he's posting places that you can see Caruso music should you be so inspired. A couple of free ways to do it on YouTube, and I think there are ways to purchase as well. You get the better quality and you'll get to own it if you care to do that kind of thing. Randy Cascale's on the call, also a guy we used to play, not only many different ways we played with Randy and Rob. Love those guys. They played in an opening band. Hi, Gail Lucas. They opened for us quite a few times, and then later we had the Cascale brothers join. We invited them to join the Caruso band, and they did quite a few great gigs with them, and they're both fantastic people, and it's nice to see you on the call, Randy. So we'll get Dave back on here in a second and say goodbye, and we're answering there's just so many questions and comments here. We'll try to clean this up after the call and try to answer whatever we can, and also post some pictures. I have a few I can post in the comment section, so watch for some Easter eggs there. Here comes Dave one more time to say goodbye, everybody. So remember, Dave and Rob will be performing at Gros Isle at an event called Rock on the Grass. Not Rock on Grass, Rock on the Grass. That'll be on Saturday, September 29th in Gros Isle. And the link to learn more about it will be in the comment section so that you can go see those guys play. I wish I could go. I'm going to be in Erie that day. Quite a few people have been asking about a reunion and stuff. We did reunite a while back, Dave, to play for our friend Dan Drotar, who had been diagnosed with terminal cancer. And Dave actually organized like a 12 bands cavalcade living tribute to Dan. And he loved it, man. It was like his favorite thing. And I thought that I would really enjoy the gig, but hate the rehearsal. And to my surprise, it was the opposite. I love the rehearsal because it got me back into the hobby part of my brain. But I didn't think the gig was that good. I didn't think that there's an old saying, you can't come home again. What was your feeling, your assessment looking back?
Well, I think that the performance didn't show what we were really able to do. We were the last one to play. I think we were at least 8 bands total once we finished. And it was a very, very long day, very tiring. And we were the last to go on. It was a 30-minute set. We had to cut some songs due to some technical difficulties, change things around. It wasn't ideal, but it was for Dan. And Dan, Dan was your best friend, or one of your best friends. And so it was wonderful to do for Dan. He was a good person. He was good to us. He was in his glory. He was taking pictures. Photos came out good, but you've noticed I've never shared any of the video from that. Yeah. So I had video from a lot of the reunion concerts. We did about, I don't know, 10 years worth of reunion concerts with 2, 3, or 4 brothers. I think only one of them had 4 brothers, but Mike did some and Joe did quite a few of them. And ultimately they were still a blast. They were great to do. And it kept Rob and I playing together. So since Rob still plays a little bit, and he just recently bought a drum set. We're looking forward to doing it again this 2 weeks from today.
Yeah.
At 4 o'clock.
Yeah. So I saw Jason Sheff, who used to play bass in Chicago. He replaced Peter Cetera. And I saw him on a YouTube video where he's sitting in with some mates. And it's kind of like I don't know, it looks like a divey little place. It doesn't look like a very impressive gig compared to the gig he was in. And it reminded me that, it's just so hard to recreate the success of yesteryear. If you do it, you have to do it for a different reason, with different expectations. And then synchronizing everybody so they're of the same mind is not an easy thing to do. So I think I often think that it would be a lot more enjoyable for people in the audience than it would be for us. And let's just leave it there for now. We won't rule it out, everybody, but it's just so hard. Everybody's in a different modality now. Hell, we live in different states. How do you handle this kind of thing? Somebody has to buy an airplane ticket just to have a reunion show, and that's with no practice. So there's all these things that are going on. But Dave and Rob are carrying the torch on the 29th of September. Dave, thanks very much for being with us today. I know you got a busy rockin' lifestyle, and I really appreciate you taking a trip down memory lane.
More important than that, thanks to all these people who gave a crap about it. I think, it was easy for the 3 of us to get together, but nobody had to come. It could have been the 3 of us talking to nobody, and very proud and happy and humbled to see that all these people in some way were a part of that.
Yeah, you bet.
12 years of my life.
You bet. I appreciate it. Good luck on the 29th. I'll be talking to you before then, okay?
Sounds good. Thanks, Mike.
Love you. See you later.
Love you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So we're going to sign off right now, everybody. Thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate you. Thanks for all the love and the comments. Watch down below for the Easter eggs. We'll try to get those up during the afternoon, old photos. We can't share YouTube links to Facebook like we used to. Facebook doesn't allow them. But if you go to YouTube and actually search Dave or search my channel, Dave's channel, you'll easily find more Caruso music. And if it makes you smile like it makes me smile, it'll be worth a few seconds to search it up. Thanks again, everybody. We'll see you soon. Bye.